All right, so Rolex has now announced they are building new factories. Does that mean that your watch will be worth less because there will be more supply? On today's episode of Watch Trading Academy, we're gonna cover just that. All right, so has Rolex lost their mind? Are they just making more money? Or are they facing potentially structural changes? That is the ultimate question that we're gonna try to answer right here at Watch Trading Academy today. So you may have heard the news. They have now announced that they are building additional factories to meet demand. Now we know that there are long wait lists for Rolex watches. Do new factories mean more supply of the really rare stuff? That is the question that is still being unanswered, because realistically, when we talk about something being short in supply, even adding 5% more supply is not necessarily going to be changing the entire autonomy of the cost basis of that item, meaning like the rarity of it is still not going to change if demand has increased that significantly. Now, one of the things that a lot of times people don't realize about the luxury industry is that while they always make attempts to kind of increase or decrease their supply chain to meet demand, it is in their best interest, again, to have their products not be widely available at any store at any time, taking away the prestige of it. One of the reasons why people get impressed by someone wearing a very rare and special Daytona is just that. It's very rare and special, and no one can just walk in with money and buy it. That is the gift that has kept on giving for rich people forever. We all want individuality. We all want cars and watches and stuff that can't be bought, can't be seen, can't be had. The wealth and the idea behind it works really well because, again, they're in very short and limited supply. Look at how Richard Mille basically kept its entire line of very expensive 3x of MSRP watches like the Bubba Watson, the Nadals, and things like that, because again of the very limited supply and the non-overage that occurred during the collapse of watches over the last year. So when we saw a 50% decrease in AP pricing, we barely saw a 10-15% decrease in rare, hard to get, again, Richard Mille watches. So production numbers matter, and this is something that's real in the watch industry that you have to consider. So what does it mean for us when we're thinking about the future of new factories coming about? So I'm going to use specifically something about Hermès because this is one of the most famous brands for handbags, and Hermès does a really good job in terms of really limiting its bag population, individuals being able to get its rarest bags. So what do we know about Hermès? Well, we know that Hermès is also attempting to launch a new factory to produce more bags, but we know these things take significant amounts of time, and it is usually behind the amount of demand. So that means that even then, with the new factory, you're still not meeting demand. You're just accelerating your opportunity to at least meet more of it, but you're not meeting that equilibrium where supply and demand will finally meet. It just doesn't happen for these luxury brands, and it's something very important to understand, because otherwise you're gonna think that, oh, as long as I can walk in and buy a Rolex from the store without waiting or without ordering it or without having to build a relationship, then that watch will be worth less used than it is new. It's just common sense. If you can buy the same item new, if you can walk in a Lamborghini dealership and buy an Aventador sitting there for 300K, well, why would you ever want to buy a used one for more than 300K when you can buy the new one? It doesn't make sense. So used items are worth less than new items only when the new items, become unavailable. So as a result, someone has to go used in order to pick up the asset, right? So that's how you have to start thinking when it comes to watches, cars, and everything else. Make sure you follow other channel, Exotic Car Hacks, if you want to learn more about how to get in and out of cars without losing money. But today, we're still talking watches. And where we actually come in here, that's super important to understand, is that the entire ecosystem of how these industries are built is not built around the next year, but rather the next 10 years, the next 15 years. These brands are built around survivalship and ensuring that their legacy carries on. Now, I know that Rolex is probably one of these more wide stream and generic brands compared to like Hermès or some of these more private brands like Patek, but it's just really important to understand that once more, we are now going into an industry that, again, is so behind in supply that I don't think it's going to make that significant a difference to have new factories open and be able to catch up some of that. Now, I will say historically that even if there was a little bit more inventory at the Rolex store, it would help them sell more watches, even if they're not getting more of the rare and hard to get inventory, which I think is the only place to place if you're going to play in the Rolex space from a value standpoint and from a flipping standpoint, from making money standpoint. So I don't think we need to worry about this as really industry news. I think one thing that is going to change and create a little bit of a different dynamic, which we talked about before, is the pre-owned program. They did release a statement that they will not put a cap or a price index on what their jewelers can charge for pre-owned watches, so they will price them based on market. Now, that is something that I expected and I believe will have an impact on these secondary markets, because one of the biggest issues people have in buying watches on the secondary market, even though they're willing to pay the premium for it, is the simplicity or the issue that they don't trust the source in which they're buying it. So if they have to buy a watch in New York and they're located in Florida and they don't feel comfortable wiring someone where they can't get the product instantly, they're going to face that problem. And they also, in many cases, cannot pay by credit card. Now, in this particular case, Rolex opening their stores to secondary units at market value will drive a certain type of client that would be willing to spend that double triple MSRP charge on a really rare watch, but will do so only on the basis that, one, they're protected by using their credit card, or they want to get their points or some kind of benefit. But then two, they also are now trusting that they can make that transaction, walk into the store and walk out there with their watch. And because they're afraid of how the model works by just wiring random people you've never met, and maybe you're not getting the right watch, maybe it's got an issue, then you don't have now a problem ultimately, and you have this very simple gateway that allows people to transact without fear. So those are my thoughts again on the whole Rolex program. Just make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments again, how do you think Rolex's new factories will impact supply? I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you think we're going to start seeing discounts on Rolex watches, or will demand rise even further and make Rolex even more money than ever before? Click the link, let me know in the comments. And again, don't forget also, if you've never thought about watch trading or want to learn how to get in and out of watches and actually build a reputable business doing this, all you have to do is click the link in the description and learn how to actually trade watches. As little as $1,500, access to a post office, a few hours a day, and within a few months, you could become a very profitable and lucrative watch trader. So click the link, the training's free, and I'll see you on the next video for Watch Trading Academy.